Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka from our studios here in London. Coming up on today's show, in a significant development for the political system of the United Kingdom, Stormont has finalised a breakthrough on power sharing, ending years of political deadlock and uncertainty in Northern Ireland. The former British Minister of State for Europe, Denis McShane, will soon be joining me here in the studio to assess the significance of the agreement on politics in Westminster. And next week, the British government's Department for Business and Trade will embark on a trade mission to Nigeria to explore potential investment opportunities in the country's £20 billion fashion and beauty sector. Erica Freemantle, the founder of the beauty consultancy firm Embracing All Tones of Women, or ETAL, will be part of the group, and she'll be joining me here shortly to shed some light on what can be expected. Then later, I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. But first, let's begin the show by taking a look at what's been trending on social media platforms this week, and we begin with LinkedIn. The global affairs non-profit Concordia has announced that applications are now open for the 2024 P3 Impact Award. This annual recognition celebrates leading public-private partnerships that improve communities and the world, highlighting leading practices and actionable insights. The winner will be announced at this year's prestigious Concordia Annual Summit in New York, which is held in late September. And on X, the World Bank says Malawi has made strides towards digital transformation, with millions of people now having access to the internet. In its analysis of digital development, the Bretton Woods institution said since 2014, about 4.3 million people in Malawi have benefited from increased access to affordable, high-quality internet services by productively utilising a wide variety of digital services, such as mobile payments and online learning platforms. Then finally, this from Reuters on Facebook. McDonald's reported its first quarterly sales miss in nearly 4 years on Monday, squeezed by weak sales growth in its business division that includes the Middle East, China and India. The burger giant is among several Western brands that have seen protests and boycott campaigns against them over their perceived pro-Israeli stance in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Downing Street and Buckingham Palace took the unusual step of confirming details of a call between the Prime Minister and King Charles this week, in an attempt to show that the monarch is still fit enough to carry on with his duties. Earlier in the week, Prince William, the Prince of Wales, spoke about the King's cancer diagnosis for the first time as he expressed his gratitude to the public for their kind messages of support. Well, for more on this, I was earlier joined in the studio by our Downing Street correspondent, Simon Pusey. So, Simon, the devastating news was announced on Monday. We were down in Buckingham Palace on Tuesday. I think since then, the press have, of course, become more interested in this story. We know Harry was here. It was a fleeting visit. Lots of things not being said. People whispering about abdication, what happens to the monarchy, what happens to continuity.
Yeah, well, I think that's, and also there's so much focus on the royal family from around the world, isn't there? The number of camera crews that were at Buckingham Palace.
I think they're the most famous family, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, anything that happens there is going to get blown out of all proportion, and I think this is one such thing. It's obviously very serious, and it's, you know, the cancer as a word is obviously, when it comes in terms
scary.
Of the royal family or someone as the age of King Charles, it's yeah, exactly scary. It's anxious, but he's in good health. We've seen him out and about since then. He's met Harry. I think also Harry coming back as soon as he did kind of sent some alarm bells ringing. It's like, why, you know, it's like when everyone went to the Queen, you know, in Sandringham, when, you know, it's sort of, that may have put some...
Yeah, a couple of insiders were not really happy about Prince Harry's trip.
But he was received by Charles, and it seems like that their relationship may be patching up, maybe not with William, his brother, but I think, yeah, we'll probably look back on this in a couple of weeks and sort of remember it as a story, but kind of I think it'll fade away, because I think
nothing to be seen.
I don't think so, because I think actually the NHS generally don't treat cancers this early. You know, that this is sort of been caught so early, and they've, on top of it, of course, he's probably the most looked after man in the country, in the world, and you know, he's got all the best sort of doctors and medical staff and stuff. So I don't think this is really anything to worry about. But of course, you know, when it comes to a king who's only just taken over from the Queen, you want to take every precaution you can, and he is very hardworking. We know from Camilla that she said that he's a workaholic and he does do a lot of royal engagements and things. So I think and there's a bit of a vacuum there. So William's going to take over a couple of those things, and other senior royals are going to as well. But it'll be interesting to see. This is a kind of rehearsal, I guess, for William for being king. And Charles did that, and the Queen did that, and sometime you need to step up. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how it all works in terms of the dynamic. How long, how Harry fits into this at all.
There has been some talk online that perhaps Harry will start, going back into royal duty.
Yeah, I mean, that would have to be a bit of a gear change, wouldn't it? Because he's sort of officially given up royal duties. But yeah, and I don't think we should be sort of alarmist, and I don't think we should be talking too much about abdication and things. I think that is quite fanciful. But when things like this happen in this country, the press are going to be all over it, and especially with the royal family, and especially given their profile around the world, I think it's probably going to be fine. And King Charles will probably in a couple of months take up his royal duties again. Is my call.
That is your call, and we said it 1,000 times, I think, this week, but once again, we do, of course, wish King Charles III a speedy recovery, and the royal family remain in our thoughts and prayers.
Indeed.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak travelled to Belfast on Monday to mark restoration of power sharing at Stormont after 2 years of political deadlock. The breakthrough came last week after the DUP announced that it would end its boycott of the Assembly after a deal was agreed to allay unionist concerns over post-Brexit trading arrangements. Well, for more on this, I was earlier joined in the studio by the former British Minister of State for Europe, Denis McShane. Denis McShane, always an absolute pleasure having you in the Channel's Business Global studio. Of course, we are going to be talking about Stormont, but given we have just finished speaking about King Charles III and that shocking cancer diagnosis revealed on Monday, I'd like to know if you have any well wishes or any comment you'd like to say on that.
Of course. I mean, one wishes him well, period, stop. One wishes every citizen of Britain, including the man who isn't the citizen of Britain because he's the king, well. It's part of a wider problem, I think, to do with the monarchy, the disappearance of the Queen after such a long reign, this exile of Harry virtually into California. He comes back, but he doesn't even talk to his brother. So the monarchy is going to come under question with this. We hope, obviously, as for every cancer patient, and an awful lot of British people have to wait an awful long time for cancer treatment because of government cuts to the National Health Service. That's not a problem for King Charles. And he's a nice guy. He does his best, and this is a blow.
Yeah, it is a blow, and again, we wish the king a speedy recovery. Let's talk about something that's also made headlines this week. Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, he travelled to Belfast, I believe it was Monday too, to mark the restoration of power sharing at Stormont after more than 2 years of a political deadlock. How did we get here?
We got here because there is the main party of identity, if I can call it that, the Democratic Unionist Party, which is committed to an idea of Protestant politics that doesn't allow for a fair and equal treatment of all the citizens in Northern Ireland who are Catholic, who are from an Irish background in the sense of not being seeing themselves primarily as English. Now, there's a huge history, 200, 300 years old. My family is involved in it partly on my mother's side. And the Democratic Unionist Party would not accept the decision of the people of Northern Ireland in favour of staying in Europe.
Yes.
I'm not in favour of us isolating ourselves from Europe. I think it's done huge damage to Britain. But I accept the vote of the people in 2016. The vote of the people in Northern Ireland was to stay closer to Europe. And instead of accepting that, the Democratic Unionist Party kept thinking they could get advantage from it to once again put barriers between the 6 counties of the Northern Ireland UK part of the province of Ulster against the rest of Ireland. And that was unacceptable to the rest of Europe, unacceptable to the British Parliament, unacceptable to Ireland. They kept banging away at this, ending up in walking out of the power sharing agreement. So Ireland hasn't had a proper government and has lost an awful lot of money as a result. Now they've come to their senses. They generally do, but rather late in the day.
How historic do you think was the agreement? There's a lot of news at the moment. Of course, you've got your Ukrainian emblem on. That's still roaring and raging. Of course, there's a war in the Middle East, King Charles's health. It didn't appear as if it felt as if it was a historic moment, as we have seen with previous agreements.
Well, it wasn't an historic moment. I mean, very simply, the British government, and it's a Brexit government under Boris Johnson and then Liz Truss and now Rishi Sunak, they're all anti-European, pro-Brexit prime ministers.
Rishi?
Rishi, certainly, he was selected in 2015 for a seat in the north of England, a very safe Conservative seat. Up to then, he'd been a hedge fund manager, a billionaire in Silicon Valley. He came back and said, hey, I'm a clever guy. I went to the poshest public school in England. I'd like to do politics. So they found him a safe seat, but he then was selected on the basis of swearing, I don't know, not on the Bible because he's Hindu, that he would be anti-European and he would vote for Brexit. I don't think he believes it particularly, but frankly, I don't know what he believes in particularly.
Another milestone just a couple of weeks ago was the 4-year Brexit anniversary, 31st of January 2024. On that day, there was a new £300 million a year bill for small to medium-sized enterprises, because I believe there's another export certification that's needed for goods coming in here. How has Brexit strained the relations within the United Kingdom? Because, as you said, Northern Ireland, the DUP at least, don't want to be closer to Europe.
Yes, they do, but they speak for a minority in the sense that, yes, I mean, they didn't win the last
people have changed their
Assembly
opinions
elections
since then, Dennis.
Oh, I think
a lot of people don't think Brexit is doing anything for them.
Brexit is totally negative. There's 60-70% opinion polls week after week saying Brexit is a disaster. It's really touching individual people now who can't retire or have their little dream holiday home in France.
The south of France.
The school children can't go when they've done their A-levels at age 18 to go to and join in the Erasmus programme. You mentioned there's huge amounts of money business are having to pay. British Chambers of Commerce survey at just before Christmas at the end of last year, 66% of all their firms said Brexit is impacting us negatively. Our GDP is getting smaller, our armed forces are getting smaller, and there's lots of individual rights that we did enjoy as being part of the European Union that have now been removed from ordinary British people. How we get out of it, I don't know. As far as Scotland's concerned, they always say, we're the real pro-Europeans up here. Well, yes, I mean, we accept all that. Maybe you should collaborate a bit more with English pro-Europeans. I say that as a true-born Scot and a pro-European. and an
Englishman.
And a Brit. There isn't a drop of English blood in me. I'm not sure I'm happy or unhappy to say. But born here, brought up, England made me. So in Ireland as well, the Irish economy is boomsville. It's getting in so much investment now that used to come to Britain because it's in the EU. The London Stock Exchange has lost about 25% of its major listed companies, including some real biggies who simply don't want to list in London, because if they send their executives to London, there are real problems then if they want to work collaboratively.
I think we're getting it. We got back our title, didn't we, from Amsterdam?
Well, Amsterdam is a tiny stock exchange. I mean, that's like saying Manchester United got back its title from some remote village team in northern Nigeria. I mean, congratulations to Nigeria.
Nigeria.
All right, gang. I mean,
we did get through.
Many congratulations and all good luck to Nigeria now in the final. Yeah. But no, Britain was one of the world's turning points for international finance. I mean, in a sense, people thought sometimes the weight of the City of London disproportionately unbalanced Britain, because what a lot of people say is, when they come here, well, Britain's still a great country, a very rich country, but all your wealth is in London.
Absolutely, which is what the levelling up was supposed to be about.
And completely.
And HS2.
And HS2 has been binned.
Yes.
It's like saying that Nigeria can't have air services between the north and the south. An extraordinary decision.
Really fascinating insights from you, as to be expected, and as always. Dennis McShane, former British Minister of State for Europe. Thank you so much for your time and expertise.
Thank you very much, Juliana.
Coming up on Channel's Business Global, next week, the British government's Department for Business and Trade will embark on a trade mission to Nigeria to explore potential investment opportunities in the country's £20 billion fashion and beauty sector. Erica Freemantle, the founder of the beauty consultancy firm Embracing All Tones of Women, or ETAL, will be part of the group, and she'll be joining me here shortly to shed some more light on what can be expected. And as always, I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. All of this after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. In a moment, I'll be talking with Erica Freemantle, the founder of the beauty consultancy firm ETAL. But until then, here's a breakdown of some of the biggest business news stories of the week. The British consumer goods giant PZ Cussons has reported a significant pre-tax loss of £94.2 million, citing economic challenges in Nigeria. The staggering loss revealed in the company's latest financial statement underscores the profound impact of Nigeria's economic downturn on multinational corporations operating within the country. PZ Cussons, known for its diverse portfolio of personal care, home care and beauty brands, has long maintained a presence in Nigeria, considered one of its key markets. However, persistent economic headwinds, including the Naira devaluation, inflation and regulatory uncertainties, have taken a toll on the company's bottom line. Shares of PZ Cussons fell nearly 13% in early trading in London on Wednesday, and the stock is down almost 50% in the last 12 months alone. In a setback for commercial space travel, Virgin Galactic has announced a temporary suspension of its spaceflight operations following an in-flight anomaly during a recent test flight. The incident occurred late January when a small part unintentionally detached from the mothership of its rocket-powered spaceplane. Virgin Galactic said it will work alongside the US Federal Aviation Administration, which licenses commercial rocket launches, for a review of the issue. After a week of protests by farmers that saw highways blockaded around France, the FNC union have called for a lifting of what's been dubbed the Siege of Paris. French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal has announced a series of concessions to appease the farmers, including an agreement not to import agricultural products that use pesticides banned in the EU. While farmers throughout Europe have been protesting poor wages and bureaucratic policy, the French context is slightly different, given the country is the bloc's biggest agricultural producer, and President Emmanuel Macron's approval rating among the public is on the decline. Now to my final topic. Next week, Lagos State's thriving fashion and beauty ecosystem will play host to a delegation from the British government's Department for Business and Trade. Why? That's what I found out from Erica Freemantle, the founder of the beauty consultancy firm Embracing All Tones of Women. Erica Freemantle, always a pleasure having you in the Channel's Business Global studio. I've been desperate to get you on for months, but you've been incredibly busy. Something that's been keeping you busy is this new project.
Yes.
Nigeria has been spotlighted by the British government's Department for Business and Trade as a powerful location for beauty's overseas expansion. You are pivotal in this. How did it happen?
Well, you know, like in everything, it's who you know, and it's networks. I've been asked to represent the UK as far as the makeup industry. As you know, I'm a former makeup artist, and everything I do is around the beauty industry. So who else better than myself?
Yeah. There's a trade mission happening next week. Talk to me about that.
So the trade mission, I'm really looking forward to it because I know my way around Nigeria. So I feel really privileged. I do.
You do.
Okay,
No,
let's say Lagos.
Let's say the island.
A little bit further than that.
Okay, I'm only playing with you anyway.
And I was asked to represent the UK. So there's a few people from the beauty and the fashion sectors coming to Lagos. I think it's on the 19th of February, and we're there for 5 days. Yeah. And we're going to be matched with individuals or companies that are similar to ours to do trade. And I've been asked to lead in quite a few things. I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, but it is really interesting because, of course, we know, you look at all of the statistics about how much we spend on makeup, and that's Black Brits. Talk about, Nigerians.
Nigeria is a different level.
We do spend so much. What is unique about the industry there and how we use beauty and makeup?
I think unique is not quite the right word. I would say normal. I would say that we are vain as people and it's just standard and we want the best, as you and I were just talking. You want the best products and you want the best artists and people in Nigeria, West Africa on a whole, Africa on a whole, but I have to wave the flag for Nigeria. It just comes naturally from the helper to the governor to whoever. Everybody wants their makeup done by a professional, and I would say that Nigeria is number one, in my opinion, of having some of the best makeup artists in the world. And then they're not necessarily Nigerians in Nigeria; they are all over the world. But from my own research, the best people are Nigerian. What
is the British government hoping to achieve out in Nigeria next year?
A lot of trade, a lot of exchange, a lot of networking, relationships, and I'm assuming, growing the economy. And, they've recognised that's the place where the creative industry, the fashion industry, the beauty industry, that is the hub, as far as I'm concerned, of the world.
It is, really. And I think you demonstrated this with this beautiful event you had. We're showing some of those pictures now. You looked really, really stunning.
Thank you.
This is the first ETAL, Embracing All Tones of Women's Global Makeup Awards. This took place in Lagos last year. Why was that so important?
For me, so I'm at the end of my career. I've retired and I had to come back to...
Well, I don't know. Yeah, but a lot of our viewers will be shocked to hear you say that. Well, I don't know if you want to give your age.
I don't. I have no problem. I'm 60 this year.
Wow.
Okay. So for me, I'm at the end. I've been in the industry 40 years. I've never seen anyone recognise... Stop shaking your head. I've never seen anybody recognise African people for what we do in the makeup industry on a global scale. And as I said, I'm very passionate about Nigeria. And I thought, where could I do this? I could do it in London, but I don't think it would have that same oomph. So I thought, let me do it where I have the support and I know the networks and people will fly in. And that's exactly what happened. For me, it's the beginning of, it's a legacy. It's for other people to take it up and then pursue it further. But for me, it was the beginning. It needed to be done, and it needed to be done with someone who has access to other people across the world, and that's myself.
Or an expert, which of course you are. Do you think there is still, I don't know if I could describe it as a stigma, but we know that Nigerians are really huge on education, and if you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, I think they're just about considering journalism a professional career. But with makeup and beauty, the industry is worth billions, if not trillions.
Correct.
But do you think some parents or, still don't see it as a career choice?
I think
in African black households.
I think it's starting to change because there are lots of people making millions from it. There are some very successful people.
Fenty Beauty.
But I'm also, for the parents to identify with. So you've got the Taras, the Bankes, this is in Nigeria. But you've also got other up and coming that are really successful. I would say to anyone, I'm not a makeup artist anymore. I am all about...
You did a good job this morning.
Thank you. I'm all about business. So once you understand business and how it works, you can then take that and transfer those skills into the makeup industry and then evolve and grow. But it's like anything else. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You have to be in those rooms. And it's not necessarily the movers and shakers. It's the people that has access to those movers and shakers.
How were the accolades received during the ETAL Global Makeup? Has it changed?
Yes, I would say that a lot of people thought, why didn't we do that? Or, we should have done that.
Great idea.
Great idea. But however, beyond that, it's one thing doing it and another is sustaining it. And I know that the network that I have, I can sustain it for a long time. This is outside of Nigeria. The UK, you have to know who to go to, who to approach. In the Americas as well. Australia, wherever we are. I just think it was something, I saw the gap in the market. I saw that it needed to be done. Everybody gets recognised. Every single woman and some men that leaves their home has their makeup done. And the makeup artists are not appreciated. They're not seen. So this was the first time the industry came together and were happy to be in the same room because they were not they were competing, but they didn't know who won. And the vibes, the atmosphere was very emotional. Even I bawled like a baby.
Yeah.
You know,
it looked like a really stunning event, and
It
hopefully when you take the British government to Nigeria next week, you know, they'll be able to support and transform more lives. Beauty and 60 never looked so good. My goodness. Erica Freemantle, who is the founder of ETAL, or Embracing all tones of women. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today. But as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channel's Business Global. Goodbye.